Hi, my name is Jordan Musser from 3G Kart Racing, Burrell Art, and there's been a lot of negative information going around about the new IAME Skusa 175 motor. I was fortunate enough to get to drive it this weekend along with my teammate Michael Lavia, so I thought I'd share some of that experience with you guys. I know there's a lot of people that I think just don't like change. Yes, you. Even though a lot of times we don't think about it consciously, subconsciously, whenever you have something that's different, your first reaction is to not like it. Well, it's definitely different. Now that I've got a chance to drive it, I definitely have some positive things and a couple things that I hope they work on. I'd like to share those with you. For me, reliability, cost, and parity are the most important. With performance or power, maybe last. I'd rather have an inexpensive package that's even with everybody. There's no distinct advantage spending a bunch of money and it make 30 horsepower than 50. But I think what we've got here with this IAME motor is maybe a little bit of all three. I know the pricing that they've released so far looks very good. Even a built motor by your favorite builder, for me, Fisher, but I know there's a couple other good ones out there too. Should be on par with what you're paying for a Honda, which is good. Plus, you won't have to deal with your motor builder maybe scavenging the junkyard for used cylinders that have the right casting number or whatever, because all the cylinders are CNC'd. Parity-wise, like I said, with the that's really important because I think parity actually drives up cost pretty quickly. And with these cylinders being all built for a kart, all brand new, not cast, well, they're cast, but then machined afterwards, they should be a lot more even. Michael and I ran nose to tail for quite a bit in several of the heat races last weekend at NTK with TPKC, and the package seemed very even. If he made a mistake, I'd pull up on him. If I made a mistake, I'd pull up. He'd pull up on me. So I think that shows the motors are pretty even. So that's, I think, pretty important. Reliability, who knows? Nothing blew up, so I guess that's a good start. We put 100 laps each probably on the motors, and so far so good. Time will tell. I can't really comment too much on that. Drivability wise, it's got a lot more power, a lot more torque, so yeah, it's a little harder to drive. The only really maybe negative I had to say about that was it was hard to be as consistent with the throttle. I know there's some joke about number of springs on the throttle pedal here based on some posts I've made, but all reality with the butterfly carb and the geometry of the arm on the throttle cable, you actually have an increasing ratio, which typically on an engine, especially high performance one, you want a ratio that decreases, or depends how you want to, I guess, phrase it. But basically, at the beginning of the throttle throw, you want the throttle for the first 40% or so to be really insensitive. So maybe you have to move the throttle pedal 50% to get to 30% on the carb, and then you pick up the last 70% of the carb throw with the last 50% of your throttle pedal throw. It makes the engine more easier to drive, easier to control torque, because really at the end of the day, all your throttle is doing is controlling torque. It's airflow, which ultimately results in how much torque you need at the rear tires. So any race car you look at, old school mechanical throttle body stuff or electronic even control, you'll see a curve where it's very non-linear for the first 40% or so of the throttle position. And this carburetor actually does the opposite. It's actually more aggressive and it gets less aggressive. It's decreasing as you get towards the top end. So I think they need to work on that, but it's simply a control arm on the throttle. So we were running on a really high grip track, a small track, so where this motor maybe not shine, but it was faster for sure, probably a half second, 4/10 faster on a 35-second lap track. Top speed around 80 miles an hour, so pretty slow, long, not a super long straightaway. And surprisingly enough, tire was actually really good, probably better than my Honda. Now, I attribute that part to the racetrack, but a lot to the motor too. I don't know if it'll be like that on all tracks. I think with a slippery track it may not be, but Denton is super high grip, so you don't get a lot of wheel spin, but it does tear up the tires. You actually get shredded tires pretty quickly here at Denton. And with this motor, I could actually carry 2 different gears in a corner. It's pretty amazing. I never had a shifter motor that had such a broad power band. It's that broad. Like turn 1, I know a lot of you guys don't know the track, but turn 1 is 4th gear in a Honda, period. With this motor, I was actually able to use 5th or 4th, 5th being kind of the tire-saving gear, then 4th being the slightly faster gear. Turn 2, same kind of thing. In a Honda, it's 3rd gear. In this IAME 175, I could do it 3rd or 4th, and it was pretty close to the same speed. I never had to use second gear anywhere on the track where a Honda uses it in multiple places. So it didn't get as much wheel spin as you'd expect because the power is just so broad and smooth, it doesn't hit the tires quite as hard. It feels like it does get so much power, but actually I haven't seen the down curve, I'm just going off the feel, but it doesn't really feel like it hits as hard as you'd expect it to. With that said, of course, if you're running that one lower gear in several places, the karts may be a 10th slower lap, maybe a little less than that. It's not a lot. So I'm wondering if that'll introduce some more interesting racing on these long finals that we have in Skusa. Like we ran a 30-lap final last night. I'm wondering what will happen to pro racing when you have a 20-25 lap final on a minute-long track. Well, some drivers, maybe their chassis is really good and they get out in front and they can now start conserving tires by using one lower gear. And now, if they do get pressure towards the end of the race, they can start using higher gear and pick up and pull out some gaps. So kind of interesting. So overall, I had a great time with the motor. It's super fast. I mean, I don't think you really realize when you're just driving by yourself how much faster it is until you start racing with either other Hondas, which we did. I was mixed class, or Michael and I were kind of dicing a little bit, and a couple times going on the straightaway, we were side by side, and like, crap, we are really hauling ass here. You know, it feels faster, a lot faster, especially when you're banging doors with somebody. So overall, good motor, real happy with it. There's some stuff to work on. Like I said, I'd like to see Skusa go out and make some changes maybe to the way the carburetor linkage is. Minor change, I mean, obviously we could come up with some fancy contraption on the chassis to do it, but if you're building a motor specifically for for this class and its specs, so it's not like if you give up a tenth of a horsepower on something, it's going to matter because everybody's going to get the same. So throttle linkage, digressing a little too much here. So throttle linkage, I'd like to see changed. Some simple geometry solutions. I've made the suggestions to Brian Fisher, who's talking regularly with Tom Kutcher at Skusa to try to work on some ways to improve this thing. I'd like to see either the header change slightly or the pipe change, and I'm sure the pipe is made by the thousands or tens of thousands for the KZ motor, so they're probably not going to change that. It's a pretty complicated weldment that's probably robotically welded. The spacer they have on the exhaust would be cool if they had an angle in it. Give you more seat strut room. It's almost as bad as, actually it's worse, in my opinion, strut-wise, to mounting a Honda. The second strut's really difficult, and there's no reason to do that. Again, when it's all the same, might as well, if we lose a half of a tenth of horsepower because we put a angled spacer in the exhaust, it's the same for everybody, and now we can mount our seat struts easier. It's just, is it a big deal? No, but if we're going to introduce this new motor that's supposed to be perfect for karting, let's do it right. And also it gives room for the chain guard. We run one of those KG plastic carbon look chain guards, and it was rubbing the pipe a little bit because of the same thing. Pipe's pretty low. Overall, package fit's awesome. So happy to have a real go-kart motor on it instead of a Honda, with the exhaust going the right way and the intake going the right way. Like I said, it drove great, super reliable. So far, it's fun to drive. Tire wear was actually better, although again, when you have more power, there's nothing you can do. I mean, I'm sure on slippery tracks and certain facilities, especially with drivers that maybe don't have as good throttle control, you're going to see increased tire wear. I think that's just a fact, no matter what I saw, and Michael saw the same thing. We had very little tire wear, so who knows? Certain people are probably going to see the same thing we saw, and then other people are going to complain about tire wear. We'll see how chains go, all the other kind of stuff that may wear out faster with the higher power, but we saw no issues. Ran like clockwork. Like I said, we had 52 laps of racing alone, then top of qualifying and everything else, and between two karts, and no problem. So anyway, I just got to thank 3G Kart Racing and Bird King, PSL, Fisher Racing Engines, and obviously Burrell Art. I wouldn't even be able to do this one for them, and of course Skusa and IAME for giving me an opportunity to test this thing, give them feedback. I know it's getting close. We're supposed to be running these things next year, so I'm glad to see that they're getting some pro-level drivers involved to look at the setup. I know Billy Musgrave drove it and had similar overall positive results. I'm sure he has some things he wants to see changed, but if you ask 10 people what they want to see in motor, you'll get probably 10 different responses. So for me, parity, price, and reliability. And hopefully we've got all three, and looking forward to driving this some more. Thank you.